And I shoot medium format film now again. I hadn't done it for 20 years, but shooting it again now, and like I am still blown away. I've got an image in my mind now that I'm just like, I can't get close to that with digital, and I can't put my finger on it. It's like, why do people listen to vinyl, right? Why do people listen to the LPs? And it's like, oh, the sound is warmer and all that shit. And I get it, but like that doesn't really mean anything. Like, what are we translating here? What are we really talking about? You can say these words, these flowery words, but like, what does that really translate to when we're trying to break that down and kind of recreate that idea? And mentioning about the shutter speed and LEDs and that sort of stuff. Back in the day, tons of black and white shooters in vogue and that sort of thing were all shot with tons of movement, and there was just like such an energy to those images. I loved those kind of 90s vogue shots. Okay, granted, you got the era of the supermodel back then, heroin chic. I mean, it was definitely a time to be into fashion and photography, damn near the golden age, really. But that being said, like there was a if you get the opportunity to look at some of those old magazines, there is an energy in those shots that is just not present today, rightly or wrongly. You don't have to like it or not, but you can at least accept that there's a difference there, and I think that's kind of interesting to explore for me personally.
Yeah, and using technologies like film, I mean, inverted commas, old technologies, can sometimes really just be that impetus to really stretch your creative mind as well. That's what I find. There's this thing about the sort of the labor bias, where by the more energy you put into something, the greater you perceive the outcome to be. And I can definitely tell when after I've shot a roll of black and white 120 film or something, I then put all the effort into developing it and scanning it, and finally I've got it. I don't really print per se, but like when I've got the final image on my screen, I look at that, and to me, that image means a lot more than any of the 2,000 or 2,500 shots I shot the day before on my digital camera could ever mean, because it's this, I put, I have to divide the amount of effort by 2,000 shots rather than, by getting, I went out to London a few months ago with a friend of mine, and we were basically, we set ourselves a little challenge. It was just a fun thing. It was a nice sunny day, blue skies, and we decided to shoot a roll of color 120 film. And we went to Chinatown in London because we thought like, oh, well, this, they've got red lanterns and the kind of gold and the blue sky. This could work really well, and we just decided to spend an afternoon just shooting one roll each. And it literally took us all afternoon to shoot 12 pictures.
Yeah.
That was we had a great time. It was a great time. I mean, although we spent maybe 4 or 5 hours, creating those images, it's not only the final image. To me, it contains all of the labor that we put into it, So those images have a different meaning. It's a little bit like, if you imagine if you had only one image of your partner or your child, and that's the one image that you remember them by, that image would be so much more important and would hold so much more gravitas than if you had 4,500 images of that person on your phone.
And it's a weird thing that I think modern photographers struggle with clients, right? Because 4,000 images is way better. What are you talking about? 4,000 images is way better. Like, I don't like that metric is not difficult to understand. 4,000 is way better than one, right? And it's like, you're kind of stuck with it. It's like, yeah, but what if we had one phenomenal, just like, groundbreaking image as opposed to 4,000 essentially iPhone shots, which is what it comes down to. And look, I think that, and this is a broader topic maybe for another day, but I think that one of the core elements that's being kind of missed here as well is that much of a photograph for the subject, especially if they're buying it, so if the subject is the person buying it, much of the value of that photograph is the memory of that image being taken as it is the final image. And I like modern photographers today totally forget that, right? Because it's just like fucking hell, we got 3 hours. Let's just, if I can get as many images as possible, I can get more money. And yeah, like I get it, but if you're making these individual shots, like the memory of those shots being taken. I used to do family portraits and that sort of thing, long time ago, and I used to play a game where it would be mum, dad, and two kids, and it'd be split into two teams, right? So mum and kid on one side, dad and kid on the other side, and I get them to push into each other, right? So dad is pushing this way, mum's pushing that way, and the kids getting into it. They're trying to tickle dad, they're trying to cheat and all that sort of stuff, and they're playing games and like, oh my, and then Susan fell over and like, oh, we won, we won, we won. That is not a flattering image. The faces are all squished up. They're not even looking at you. He's got his eyes closed. I would sell that image every single time because it wasn't about the final image. It was about the memory of that image being taken and the fun that they had playing that game during the image being taken. That is what sells most images, which I think is lost a lot again in modern photography, where it's just a volume, right? If I can just give you more images, you'll see more value in that. And it's not. If the person is buying the image and they're in the image, you got to make sure that when that image was taken, that it's memorable.
Exactly. There's there was a really interesting quote by Yngwie Malmsteen, one of the fastest guitarists alive, right? Where he was asked like, "Oh, well, surely, why do you play so many notes? Surely, less is more." And he goes like, "Well, no, more is more. More is more, isn't it? Like more is more."
Yeah.
And it's like you go like, "Well, there's a fundamental misunderstanding," because I use the exact same principle when it comes to headshots. And again, something if you're an avid listener of this podcast, I've talked about this many times. But basically, so my philosophy when it comes to headshots, for example, no matter whether it's actors headshots or or corporate headshots, for example, is really that I don't do 20-minute headshot sessions. And the reason why I don't do that is because the end result is not what's important. It's just like you say, it's the experience, and in 20 minutes, my client is not going to have the same experience that they would have in an hour or even in 2 hours, because I do unlimited sessions. So I don't really care however much time they give me. We produce some really awesome imagery. We can go through lots of different things and whatever. But the reason why I don't charge 60 quid for a headshot is because to me, the experience, and my clients agree with that, obviously, is that the experience of creating that final image, not only is the final image going to be a lot better, that's one thing, but it's the experience that's where the value is. Having that experience, because without fail, every single person that comes through my door will utter the same few words on the way through the door. Now, well, I don't want to be here, or I've never liked having my phone.
I look terrible in photos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. They always say the same thing.
Always.
And if I can give them the experience that by the time they leave, they go, I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it. Now that's the magic. And that's
you are going to sell. Yeah, you're going to sell images. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where the value is. And that to me as a photographer is much more satisfying than just going, right, 20 minutes, time's up, next, here you go,
yeah,
whatever shit we've just shot.
I took 200 images though, so,
Exactly, yeah. I mean, imagine in 20 minutes, you can shoot hundreds of images. It's not about the volume of the images.
Yeah.
And I don't deliver. So this is the other thing I don't do as compared to many other headshot photographers. I do not deliver. I won't do online galleries, and I won't deliver lots of shots. I will deliver a very select few of retouched images, and that is it. So there's no such thing as like, oh, we're going to look through lots of the straight out of camera files and decide in a week from now which one we want. It's like, no, we're going to sit down at the end of the session. We're going to go through them. We're going to find the hero shot, the one that you love the most, of every setup that we've done, and then those are the ones that I'm going to retouch, and that's it. And so what you're going to end up with is however many images you choose, 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. But these are the images that are the cream of the crop. Those are the ones that will remind you of the experience that you had when you did that session with me. And to me, that's important. To other people, they might think, well, it's a giant waste of time because you could have 4 clients in at the same time. Fine. if that's the volume game you want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Totally. And of course, I have these calls, people go like, oh, I just need one headshot, there's a guy who does it for like 80 quid. I'm like, yeah, fine. I mean, totally cool. I actually know a guy who does it for 60 quid. I'll give you his number. Like, absolutely no problem. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.